creating custom Pokemon for you! Welcome back, everyone, to the show where we select lucky commenters to spin a series of random wheels that give us factors for a Pokemon that we then create just for you. It's gonna be an awesome episode today, y'all. We're gonna make 3 amazing custom Pokemon as always. Before we get started, some quick reminders. If you end up liking today's video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And most importantly, if you want a custom Pokemon for yourself, then don't forget to leave a comment under this video because I'll be randomly selecting people from this video's comments for the next episode. That's right, everyone who gets a custom Pokemon is just randomly selected from the comments. It's just most fair that way, but it also makes it way more important to subscribe with the notification bell turned on. Because if you got a custom Pokemon but missed the episode, there's really no point, so don't let that happen to you. Subscribe now, and without further ado, let's get into the first Pokemon. And this one will be for Electro Scythe. I'm glad you liked Dodiode in the last episode, but hopefully you like your own Pokemon even more. So alright, Electro, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you're going to be a fossil Pokemon. That's really cool. We haven't gotten one in a while. Now let's see how many times your fossil Pokemon can evolve, and you are going to get 0, which makes you a 1-stage fossil, sort of like Aerodactyl. Now let's see what typing your fossil is going to be, besides of course the rock type, and you're going to get the dragon type. That is super cool. This will be very fun to make. And the last step before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and you do! A Mega Evolution, a dragon type fossil with a Mega Evolution. This is awesome! When fossil Pokemon were first discovered in the custom Pokemon region, it sparked a race between archaeologists, with everyone trying to discover the most new species as possible. And while most archaeologists took an honest approach, there was one who was so desperate to improve their reputation that they combined unrelated and unidentified fossils together, and then claimed that they were a brand new species. And this mostly went unnoticed until the modern day, where reviving fossils is now possible, which caused the amalgamation fossil to be revived into Hydrassic. This Pokemon is actually a combination of an unknown grass, fire, and water type Pokemon that all lived long ago. And while this trio was never meant to share a body, they adapted to the situation quickly and can now fight in perfect unison. And this is reflected in the Pokemon's brand new signature ability called Amalgamation, which allows it to have the stab attacking bonus on not only rock and dragon type moves, but fire, grass, and water as well. When exposed to Hydrite, it would evolve into Mega Hydrassic. Upon achieving Mega Evolution, 2 additional heads sprouted from Hydrassic's body, now allowing it to utilize ice and electric attacks as part of its ability, which means this one Pokemon can get the stab bonus on 7 different types of moves. In terms of stats, Hydrassic is actually mostly defensive, but its low offensive stats are made up for by the fact that it just has so much offensive variety. And for the Mega Evolution, I'm too scared to give it too good offenses, so I actually made its defenses even better while also giving it some pretty good speed. Here's the shiny. I decided to swap the color of the 3 heads around because I thought that'd be a really cool theme, and I think it turned out nice. Now, the inspiration behind this Pokemon is actually super interesting. It's based off the real-life Bone Wars, which was a period of time where different paleontologists were super competitive with each other to discover the most dinosaur remains. And in an effort to get ahead of the competition, some people were assembling dinosaurs using several different dinosaur bones, but then claiming them to be one full thing, which is exactly what happened with this Pokemon, but then it got revived, so now it's this crazy amalgamated Hydra creature that is just so cool. Seriously, this might be one of my favorite inspirations behind the entire series, but now let's get into the second Pokemon. But before we continue, I gotta take a quick second to tell you all about today's video sponsor, Manscaped. Because of this channel, I'm someone who thinks about Pokemon every single day, all day, but that doesn't mean I necessarily want to look like someone who thinks about Pokemon every single day, all day. And part of this constant battle is maintaining a good grooming routine, which is why I was super excited when Manscaped sent me the new Chairman Plus electric razor, which you can get for yourself by using the link in my description or the pinned comment. Those links will take you to manscaped.com, where if you use code POKEDEXFillers, you'll get 20% off the Chairman, as well as free international shipping. So I've used electric razors in the past, but until I got the Chairman, I never realized I had never used a good electric razor before. Like, I've used it a couple times now, and I'm just surprised that it hasn't nicked me once, and I haven't had any irritation on my skin, which I feel like is super common, especially when you try out a new razor. So that must mean their skin-safe technology is working as intended. And on top of that, this thing is waterproof and the battery lasts an hour, which for a weak bearded person like me might as well mean it lasts months, maybe years. And it's also got two different heads. It's got this one for just trimming your beard down, but then it's also got this head here if you want to do more precise lines, like if you're lining up your beard or something. Yeah, I am super happy with this thing, and I think you would be too. So if you're interested at all, make sure to check out the link in my description or pinned comment, and make sure to use the code Pokédex Fillers at checkout to get 20% off, as well as free international shipping. And a huge thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring today's video, but now let's get right back into our adventure. And today's second Pokemon will be from Marie, who says they wish there was an Ultra Beast section on the power level wheel. Let me know in the comments if y'all would want to see that too, and I just might add it. But alright Marie, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be a Convergent evolution. That's cool. And it means that now we have to spin this wheel to see what generation of Pokemon will be making a Convergent 4, and it's Gen 6. I don't think we've ever gotten that one before, so that's really cool. And of course, now we have to spin this wheel to see what Generation 6 Pokemon will be making a Convergent 4, and we got Go-Go. That's actually a pretty slept-on Pokemon, so I'm excited to see what we get from this. Now let's see what new typing we'll be giving to this Convergent Go-Go. Your first type is going to be the Flying type. That is very different from the original Go-Go's typing, and Flying Fairy. I swear, every single time we get a Convergent evolution, it always sounds super difficult, but hopefully we do pretty good. And the last step before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and none this time. Get ready to meet a high-altitude beast with a mythological backstory. Your Pokemon is Skydew, the mountain peak Pokemon. These Pokemon are naturally attracted to areas of high elevation and can always be found climbing to the top of any structure that they come across, no matter how high it is. And this makes them very annoying pets because they're always knocking valuables off of high shelves in their constant quest to keep climbing. However, this natural urge to climb is not without purpose, because if Skydew manages to reach the highest point in the Pokemon world, it will evolve into Trogo. These Pokemon are extremely rare due to the immense difficulty of the journey that Skydew must take to achieve this evolution. But it's definitely a worthwhile reward because these Pokemon are now fully capable of flight and no longer need to climb to reach high points. And because of this Pokemon's rarity and absolute strength, it was once believed that these Pokemon pulled the chariots of the gods. In terms of stats, this Pokemon is very focused on its special attack and speed, but it also has pretty solid HP. And for the shiny, I went with this copper color because it looked like some sort of armor, which I thought was absolutely awesome. But what I like most about this Pokemon is definitely its evolution method. I just see it translating into the fan-made game really well. Like, there's definitely going to be some point along Victory Road that's really high up and really hard to get to. But if you take a Skydew there, it will evolve into this Pokemon and then be super powerful right before the Elite Four, which would be super useful. But now let's get into the third Pokemon. And this one will be for Samuel. My bad, here you go. So alright Samuel, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be regular. There's nothing wrong with that. Now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve, and you are going to get 1, which makes you a 2-stage evolution line. Now let's see what typing your Pokemon's going to be. Your first type is going to be a Grass type. That is a good classic Pokemon type. And Grass Fire, that's actually really cool typing. It's like opposite. And the last step before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and you do a signature move. Nice. Get ready to meet a Pokemon who's incredibly dangerous to enemies, but also to itself. The first stage of your Pokemon is Slaboom, the explosive Pokemon. These Pokemon naturally grow pine cones on top of their head, which sounds cute until you realize these pine cones are explosive, requiring this Pokemon to throw them in random directions whenever they grow too large. Upon leveling up while knowing the move Explosion, it would evolve into Lazooka. These Pokemon have built their own weapons out of fallen tree bark, now using them to more accurately fire the explosive pine cones that its body produces. And while this does give the Pokemon better aim, it definitely doesn't make it safe. And this lack of safety is reflected in its signature move, Boom Tube. This move is similar to Focus Punch because it won't fire the first turn that it's used, but on the next turn, it would deal a massive 165 grass-type damage. However, also like Focus Punch, this move would have a downside if it gets interrupted, as while it still deals damage to to the opponent, it will now also damage itself for 50% of the damage dealt, as the enemy's close proximity causes it to get caught in its own explosion. In terms of stats, Lazuka has very good special attack as well as HP, which will hopefully let it survive some of its own explosion. But to make up for this, it has abysmal speed. And for the shiny, I went with this dark gray color as a reference to cartoons. When there's any sort of explosion, the character that gets caught in it is like covered in soot and looks dark gray. I thought that was a cool theme. But that's gonna do it for today's episode, y'all. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe before you go. And if you want to watch more episodes, there's a bunch in this playlist. I'm gonna get right back to making some awesome custom Pokemon for you, so I'll see you in the next episode. But until then, peace.